Okay. So we are going to work on files and directory. And I'm going to use the black screen since that is what we're using in the class. So this class is going to focus on, this section is going to focus on file and directories creation. And I'm also going to take us through the permission. And we are going to look at installing some application at the end of the class. Okay, I don't know why this is taking forever, so I'm going to use my first virtual machine rather. Okay, this is my first virtual machine. Okay, this is my first virtual machine. So now I'm logging as root user. I want you to take note of something right here. This is tilde sign. Tilde sign is this. Tilde typically means home directory. But before we go into that, in Windows, we also have files and directories. And typically files, in my opinion, in my definition, have what we write on. You know, example of file would be Microsoft. We type something on Microsoft, in Microsoft. We type something in PowerPoint. We type something in Excel. Those are all files, right? However, we have folders. Folders, on the other hand, we do not type something in folders. We keep things in folder. Folders are like storage, okay? Folders, we keep other folders in a folder, and we keep files in a folder. We keep folders inside a folder, and inside a folder, and inside a folder like that. You know, we can have a folder, grandma, and create another folder inside that folder called grandpa, and create another folder inside that grandpa, call it son. Create another folder inside that son, call it daughter. Keep going like that. So folders are where you store things pretty much. While files, what you can only do with files is to write things. The same thing applies to Linux. We have files and we have folders. However, in Linux, we don't call folders folders. We call folders directories. So now when you hear me saying directories going forward, then you know I'm talking about folder in Windows. Okay? So when we're doing our installation, at some point we saw it says root password, and we created a root password. Now we are logging as that root. So the concept of user logging into system, this is the way I explain it. Like every user, when you log into a system at any point in time, you are entering a folder. You are logging into a folder. And that folder is called your home directory. That folder is called your what? Your home directory. Let's look at it this way. Say you have a house and you have 5 people living in the house. One out of those 5 people is the owner of the house, and the other 4 are paying rent. So the owner of the house is like the administrator, right? The owner of the house will have his own room in the house, and the 4 other guys will have their own room. But the truth of the matter is, if you've lived in an apartment before, you know that your apartment owner can come to your room for inspection, pretty much, and you can't do nothing about it. They can come to your room to fix things and stuff like that. Okay? But you will hardly go to the room of your landlord for what? You have no business going to their room. So what I'm trying to say is everybody will have what is known as home directory, such that anytime you enter the house, you have a particular room that you go into that you can call your room. And everything you're going to do will be within the 4 corners of that room. Okay? So we're going to look at those rooms like folder, which means every time a user logs into the system, you are entering a folder, and whatever you do is going to be within the 4 corners of those folder. Okay? However, the root, who is the administrator, also when entering the server enters a folder, but he has the ability to move from one person's room to the other because he's the administrator, and he will be given the access to do that. Okay? Just imagine the landlord has a spare key to every tenant's apartment or room. So which means the landlord can also gain entrance into their room. Okay? But you cannot gain access to the room of your landlord because you do not have the permission to go in there. You're only paying for one room. Okay? So the root in this case will be able to log in or to enter into anybody's room because it's the root. But regular user won't be able to do that. So let's try this. And I'm going to play with some commands. First command will be pwd. Pwd means present working directory. Present. You know what? I'm not going to write here so I don't confuse you. So let me open a folder. And I'm going to pwd. That means pwd means pwd present working directory. So this is saying for every user that is logged into the system at every point in time, you have a specific present working directory. It's just like asking yourself, where am I in the system? And if I do enter here, it's saying I'm under /root. So I'm going to explain the concept of slash. Slash pretty much is the beginning of the file structure in Linux, which means everything starts from slash. Everything starts from slash, which is the root directory. Okay? Slash is the beginning of everything. And now, if you're logging as root, your present working directory, let me do something right. If I do cd / enter ls, you see all these directories. Remember I said directory means folder. They are under slash. So the concept of slash is that everything begins from slash. But now let's focus on this for a minute. So now /root is saying my present working directory is /root. But if you look at this place right here, it's showing tilde, and here it's showing tilde, and it's saying my present working directory is /root, which means /root and tilde means the same thing. I remember I said tilde means the home directory of any user login. This is the user login at this point, which is root. That means tilde means the home directory of root. And the home directory of root is /root. So let's try something. Let me create a new user. The command to create a user is user add. Let's say I want to add a user called Joe. Joe. I've just added a user. And the password of that user, if I want to assign a password, I'll say password Joe. So user add, this is one word or lowercase, create a user. Password, with username in front, create password. If I come right here, so now he's asking me for new password. And I'm going to do password. You see, he's telling me again that it's a dictionary word, but I'm going to proceed anyway. Password. And now the password has been created, right? So, but don't forget I'm logging as root. Let me log out as root. In order for me to log out, I just need to do exit. And now I'm log out. Now it's saying login. So now let me log in as Joe. And I'll put password. So now I'm logging as Joe. See something right here saying Joe at tilde also. When I logged in as root, it says root at tilde. And when I did pwd for root at tilde, it says the home directory of root is /root. But now if I do pwd for Joe, it's saying the home directory of Joe is /home/Joe. /home/Joe. So what I'm trying to tell you here is any user you are creating, their home directory will be /home/the username. In this case, the username is Joe. However, by default, the home directory of root will be /root, which means it's not going to have home. Okay, let's leave that. So let's move on. Let's move on to let's go back to login as root and work as root. Let me log back in as root. Okay, pwd, you see, /root again. Okay, so now I just showed you how to create a user, right? So let's do some exercise. If you are the administrator and you want to switch user, remember I said as the administrator, you have the right to move from one room to the other. As the administrator, you can decide that I want to go to Joe's home directory. And don't forget, it says Joe's home directory is /home/Joe. So, but before I start moving around, let me show you how this works. In Linux, there's a command called cd. And cd means it's a popular command that you're going to be using every day. You're going to be using that command every day. cd means change directory. So change directory is like saying, take me to a particular directory. You know how you are how in Windows you can click a folder. You can click a folder, and once you click the folder, you can click another folder. You can double click a folder, double click a folder inside that folder, double click folder inside that folder, and keep going. So cd is like you double clicking to say, take me to another folder, take me to another folder, take me to another folder. Does that make sense? And you know, in Windows, you can come like this and say, create a folder and call this folder grandpa. Then you can click this folder twice and create a folder inside this folder and call it grandma. Right? You can click this folder again and create a folder inside this folder and call it son. Right? You can click this again and create a folder and call it daughter. Right? At the end of the day, you realize you have grandpa. To see what's inside grandpa, you have to double click. And now you can see grandma, double click. You can see son, double click. You can see daughter. So what we are doing right now is like doing this. cd means change directory / which is our root directory, grandma / grandpa / son / daughter. Same exact thing, which means this daughter is a folder. This is where I'm going. Take me to this folder, which is directory in Linux. But this directory is inside this directory. And this directory is inside this directory. And this directory is inside this directory, which means before you take me here, I have to get here, I have to get here, I have to get here, and I have to get here. And the reason we have / is because that is the beginning of the file structure. You know? Right? But let's even go through the process of creating a directory to start with. Okay? So let's create a directory and call it grammar. The command to create a directory is mkdir, which means what? Mkdir, it means make directory. What's the directory name? mkdir grandma. Grandma. Cool thing about Linux is now we've created this directory. But the fact that we've created this directory is not enough for us to see the directory. If we really want to see the directory, we have to do ls, which means list the contents of this directory. Remember, I said every time you log into Linux, you are in a folder. So right now, we are in this folder. While we're in this folder, we created another folder. While we're in this folder, which means this grammar is in this folder. But ls means list the content of this folder. Whatever, as long as you are in this folder, anything we create or we do here is going to be inside this folder. And don't forget, this folder is the same thing as root home directory, because if we do pwd now, it will show us /root. Don't forget I said that before. So now, if I do cd, which means change directory to /root, you will notice it will bring me back to this tilde, because this tilde is the same exact thing as this. You see, I still have this. This guy is as good as doing cd /root is the same thing as cd hyphen. In this case, because I'm logging as the root user, it's the same thing. But if I am logging as Joe, tilde means something totally different. As a matter of fact, as Joe, I can't even access /root because I'm not the administrator. You see, permission denied. So tilde in this context means the home directory of Joe, which will be /home/Joe. So if I do cd /home/Joe, this will give me tilde. Does that make sense? Okay. Let me go back to root. Okay. So now remember we created a directory called grammar. And when I do ls, I can see the grammar here. You see the grammar right here. Okay. Now I can see the directory under my folder tilde. So this is just like me doing, let's say this is this space right now, my desktop. Let's look at my desktop as my tilde, and I'm looking at the folder grandpa. That's the same thing going on here. And the fact that I'm looking at the folder doesn't mean I'm inside the folder. If I really want to go inside the folder, then I have to double click, which is cd. So if I want to go inside this grammar, I have to do cd grandma, which is as good as double clicking. Okay, so we're going to cd into grammar. And now you notice this change from tilde to grammar now is saying Our present working directory is now grandma. You notice now it has changed from root to /root/grandma. Okay, present working directory is going to always tell you where am I? Where am I at this moment? And remember, I said anytime you are in your Linux, you are actually in a particular folder, a directory at all time. You are in a directory. However, to know where you are, just do pwd. It will tell you the exact directory you are in. If you want to move out of that directory, you know, it's just like saying, I'm inside this directory and I want to move out. I'm inside this directory and I want to move out. I can do back, right? And I can close this, right? In Linux, to do that back, you just do cd ... We take you back. See, we are back in tilde. Tilde, which means /root. To see the content of tilde, you do ls. To cd into tilde, to cd into grandma, you do cd grandma. Okay, to see what's inside grandma, you do ls, and grandma is empty. Now we can create mkdir grandpa. pwd, we still have grandma. If we do ls, we can see grandpa. And now we can also cd into grandpa. Clear is to clear your screen, and it's going to start from hop again. pwd root grandma, grandpa. Grandpa now, right? If I want to go back to root again, I'll do cd ... It means I'm going 2 folders backward, 2 directories backward. cd space ... Anytime you type a command, you have to put a space. Your command is an action word. I want you to do this for me. Space, the action you're expecting this command to perform. Enter. You see, takes me back to tilde. And I can do cd grandma / grandpa. Enter. pwd, I'm back here. Okay? Now, let us create a file and a directory. Let's create a file. There are so many ways to create a file. You can use the command vi, you can use the command vim, you can use nano, you can use emac, you can create files in so many ways. Again, there are so many ways to skin a cow, okay? However, for this class, you're gonna be using the text editor called, you're gonna be using text editor called vi, okay? And vi helps to create and edit a file at the same time. It's used to create a file and it's used to edit a file. However, you can also use the command touch, but this touch helps us create empty file. Say I want to create touch father. Create it, but it's empty file. But if I want to use vi to create mother, and I click enter, you see it opens something and it says new file. You see mother, new file. Now, another cool thing about Linux is now the file is open. That doesn't mean it's in writing mode. It doesn't mean you can start writing. In order for you to start writing, you have to type I, which means insert. And at the time you type the I, you will notice there will be insert mode underneath here. I'm going to type the I now. You see that? Insert, which means you are good to go to start writing. Okay? And once you're done writing, in order for you to get out from this text editor, you have to type escape. Escape. So once you do escape, you will notice this insert mode will change. Escape. And the insert mode is off, which means you're done writing. I said for you to write, you have to type the I, which means insert. Once you're done, escape. And at this point, you can do column. At that point, you can do column. You can do that by doing shift plus this sign will get you column. Okay? You can do your column, and by the time you do WQ, it means write and quit, which is the same thing as save, right? And there's so many ways you can save, but I'm going to stick to this, write and quit. By the time I enter and I do ls, I have two files, father and mother. Okay? There is another command I'm going to talk about. It shows us the content of the file. Shows us the content of the file. If I do cat or vi, we'll be able to see the content of the file. I'm going to start with father. Cat father. We are not seeing anything. Why? Don't forget, we created an empty file, which means it's empty. Let's do cat mother. Now we can see God is good to me because we had written something in the file mother. Okay, we want to edit the file father now. To have something in there, we can do vi father. Okay, and now vi father, we have something inside. We can do insert and say have a good father and save that. Oh, I think I didn't inserts. So anytime you want to edit, you have to do the insert, and once you're done, you hit the escape. To save, you do column WQ and you save. Now if I do cat father, now I can see I have a good father. Okay, I'm going to create another directory in here, and the command for directory again is mkdir, and I'm going to do son, right? So if you notice something, the directory is blue and the files are white. And I'm not saying go with this all the time, depending on the terminal you're using. But most times when you are in this dark screen and you're using, SSH application like Putty and the rest of them, you will always see that your directory will be in blue and your folders will be in white. Okay? Good. very quickly, since we are able to talk about creating files, creating directory, how to move backward, how to move to the front. Again, how to move backward, to go back to root, I'll do cd dot dot slash dot dot, which means go back one step, second step. By the time I do enter, it takes me back to slash root, which is the same thing as tilde. If I want to go back to the front, I just do cd. So I can either do cd slash root slash grandma slash grandpa. It will take me here. But why do I need to do slash root when I'm already inside slash root? And by the time I do ls, I can see grandma. In that case, I can just do cd grandma. Since I'm looking at grandma inside of me, I don't have to start all the way from the beginning of the file structure, because it's just like saying, I am here in grandma, and I want to go to daughter. And I'm like, okay, let me go and start from grandpa again. When all I just need to do is click on son and click on daughter, right? And I'm in daughter. So I don't have to go back again and start from slash root. I'm already in slash root. I can do grandma slash grandpa. And there I am, PWD, grandpa. Okay, you want to play around with this, going back and forth, and I'm going to move forward. Okay, so one thing I also want to talk about, the other time I created a user called Joe. I'm going to create another user add Mike, and the password, I'm going to do password Mike. And it's asking for password. I'm going to do password. So I have a user called Mike, right? But every time as an administrator, you're creating a user for somebody, because you're creating the user, now you know the person's password. It's a good practice to always prompt your user to change their password at first login. That way, you are not held accountable for whatever happened to their account. And in order to do that, you want to use the command chdo, the username, in this case, Mike. Now I'm saying, make sure Mike's password expires the next time he logs in, such that Mike will be prompted to change his password, reset his password, change the age of Mike's password to 0. So if I do enter, now let me exit and try to log in as Mike, and password, Mike, password. Look at that. You are required to change your password immediately, root enforced. So now, changing password for Mike. Yeah, current password, which means the current password you were given before. Type that password first, which is password. Enter. Now, it's not asking you for new password. At this point, it's only Mike that knows this new password. The root user does not know the password again. So Mike can now come here and just do password 1, 2, 3, 4. Password 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's not taking that. Okay, so Mike is in using a different password from the password root assigned to mine. Okay, let's go back to what we're doing. Grandma, grandpa. Okay, now we have a file, we have a directory. Let me teach us something again. You know, I said to list the content of this directory, we have to use ls, or we can use ll, or we can use ls space dash al, or we can use ls space hyphen la. So when you do ls, it's going to list the content of grandpa just like this. But when you do ll, it's going to list that user, and it's going to list all the permission the owner has on that account, on that file. So when you do ls space dash la, it will not only show all the files, it will also show the hidden files. Okay? You notice since we've been doing ls and we've been seeing 3 files. But when we do ls space dash la, you see there are some dots right here, and they are also blue, which means they are also directory, but they are hidden directory. Any directory that starts with dots, they are hidden directories. But when you do ls, you don't see them because they are hidden. In order for you to do them, you have to hold the option of A, and you see them. You do ll, you see it's still showing you all the files with the permission, but without the hidden files. ls is showing you the file without the permission. You see the differences, okay? So another thing I want you to consider is every time you create a user, that user assumes some things. By default, that user will have a user ID, a group ID, which means the user would belong to a group, right? Let me do this. ID Mike. Saying user ID for Mike is 501. Group ID for Mike is 501. Mike belongs to groups 501. Which means every time you create a user, the user is an individual. That individual belongs to a family. As a matter of fact, that user can belong to multiple families. Okay? Just look at it like there's a guy, and his name is Joe. Okay? The moment that guy gets married, technically, he's joining himself to another family, and technically, it belongs to that family, right? It belongs to that family. If you're a guy and you get married to a lady, the union is 2 different families coming together. Members of 2 different families coming together to become one. And they are creating a family. Okay? Each of those people, they have their own individual ID. Right? But when they come together and get married, they belong to a group. Right? So technically, you can have other friends, and along the line, they become your family. So this is saying every user belongs to a group, every user has personal ID, and every user can have multiple groups. So when you create a user in Linux, the user will assume what is known as home directory. The user will have UID, GID, and will belongs to group or groups. Does that make sense? If you want to check all the groups you have on your system, just do vi/etc/group. Don't forget, vi help you to list and edit. But since we are not editing, we can just do cat. By the time we do enter, you see the new 2 users we created, Joe and Mike, they have a group, right? So if you want to know all the users that you've created also, you can do cat/Etsy/password. It's going to show you all your users. This is Joe and Mike. These are the users that the system created for you. These are the ones you created yourself, right? So if you look at this file directory, and I've said this in class before, but I'm repeating this again now. These parts, which is the, let's take this file further first. And before then, let me tell you this. We see that it says hyphen read write hyphen read hyphen read hyphen, and we have roots, and eventually we have father. And there's another one, the son. It says drwxr hyphen xr hyphen x. Now we have, oh, what's this? drwxr hyphen, okay. Now we have roots, son. So look at this critically. The difference between son and father, you can see son is blue, which means is a directory, and father is white, which means a folder. So this letter D is just saying this is a directory. And this one with a hyphen is just saying it's a file. If this is a directory, then we also have the D. And in Linux permission, we have R means read, W means write, and X means executes. However, the R also means for, W means two, and X means what? 1. And 4 plus 2 plus 1 equals what? 7, right? So you have read write, read read, read write, read read, read write, execute, read execute, read executes, right? And for this, remember I said every user, we have user ID, we have group ID. In Linux, this first section is permission, and this section is ownership, which means it's saying the permission these owners have on this file, the permission these owners have on this file. So the owner is root. The owner of this file is root. This file belongs to the group of roots. And there is some other folks that are not mentioned here. We call them others. So in permission, we have owners, we have groups, and we have others, right? We have owners, we have groups, and we have others, right? So now the owner is the first person right here. The group is the second person right here. The others, however, you don't see them, okay? I don't want to say they are not relevant, but you don't see them. So having said that, it means father, the owner has the permission to read, write, but cannot execute on father. The group can read, cannot write, and cannot execute on fathers. Every other person can read, they cannot write, and they cannot execute. If you look at this, you notice everything is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But the first one identify if it is file or directory. So technically it is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which means the first 1, 2, 3 is for the owner, the second 1, 2, 3 is for the group, and the last 1, 2, 3 is for the others, right? So if you need to modify, and now we know that read, write, execute, that's 7. Read, write, execute, that's 7. Read, write, execute, that's 7. So ideally, say you want to give the root and the group permission to read and write. So which read and write in this case is 4 and 2, which is 6. The command to modify permission is chmod, change mode, right? I can say chmod 664 father, which means change the mode of the file father such that the owner has 6, which is read and write, the group has 6, which is read and write, and the others has 4, which is read. This is the current mode now, 644. By the time I do enter right here and I do LL, you notice this has changed to RW as opposed to RWR, because what I've just done here, has been implemented. So now we have read, write, rewrite, read. I can do the same thing for mother and say chmod 666 mother, which means I want everyone to be able to read and write on the file mother. If I do LL, you see I have read, write. There is no execute, read, write, no execute, read, write, no execute. Does that make sense? So every time a file is created, the person creating the file becomes the owner and becomes the group owner. However, you can change to assign ownership and group to whosoever you places. Now we have a user, Joe and Mike, on this system. I can change owner using the command chown. On the father, I can say I want the owner to be Joe, and I still want the group to be root. So I can decide to do this. This is root to root, owner group. So now I'm changing the owner to Joe, the group to root, but I'm just putting the column here, on the file father. Enter. By the time I do LL, you see the owner now is Joe as opposed to this. Okay? And don't forget, there's so many ways to skin a cow. I can do Shihun and use it to change the group also. I can do Shihun and change the owner of mother to Mike and decide to change the group to the group of Joe on the file mother. By the time I do LL, you see the owner is Mike and the group is Joe. Okay? So the question is, in a typical work environment, we want to have groups like finance. Let me create a group called finance. This is the command to create a group add finance. So let's use a real group, finance. Let me create another group and call it HR. Now I have two groups. So now let me make this group further so that it's owned by finance. Shihon, Joe. And the group is finance on the file father. You see, that changes. Shihon, Mike. So let me change the group of mother to HR now. I can also use this command, she group, which means change group to HR on the file mother. If I don't want to use Shihon, I can use she group to change the group. And by the time I do LL, you see, the group has changed. So what I'm trying to say here is, you can use Shihon to change ownership and group. Then you can also use she group to change group if you don't want to use Shihon to change the group. And there's so many ways you can use Shihon to change the group. You can use Shihon instead of specifying the user. You can skip the user since you don't want to change the user. In this case, let's go to Sun. Let's say I have a user root, but I really don't want to change this user. I only want to change this group to finance. I can put a column that separates the user from the group, and I can just put what I'm expecting the group to change to. In this case, finance on the directory Sun. By the time I do LL, you notice the user didn't change, but the group has changed to finance. I hope that makes sense. Now, I can also add a user to a group. So we have the concept of this group now is, now everybody in this group, we have this permission on this file. So this is like putting a whole lot of people in a bucket and giving them a particular permission. Let's have a scenario. You have you are in the finance department, and there is a particular file called payroll. Okay, and that file, you want to make sure only the people in the finance are able to access the file. So which means you may give the permission shmode 660 payroll, right? Which means on the file payroll, I only want the owner to be able to read and write and the group to be able to read and write. Now I have to make sure the group owner of this file is finance. Then I have to do she group finance payroll. Now the group has changed to finance. Finance. That means the owner root can read write on this file. The group can read write on this file, which is anybody in this finance group, like saying anybody in the finance department. So the question now is, how do you add user to this group? Okay, let's say I want to add Joe. I can say user mode hyphen a capital G, okay, finance Joe. I'm saying add Joe to this group finance. By the time I do ID Joe, which means show me Joe's identity, Joe has a user ID, group ID, and Joe belongs to groups, his own group, and the finance group, which means whatever permission we are giving to this finance group on this payroll file, Joe automatically has the same right because Joe is a member of finance. Let's add Mike to finance too. User mode hyphen a capital J finance Mike. When I do ID Mike, also Mike has also become a member of finance. And I can also do the same thing and add Mike to HR. I can add Joe to HR too. So by the time I do ID Joe, so now we can see Joe is in finance, Joe is in HR, and Joe is in his own group, which is Joe, which means a user can belong to multiple groups. So you don't have to create files and be giving different users different access on the file. It's always good to have a file or a directory, create a group, and give the particular group the access to that file. Now you can start adding and removing people in and out of that group. Okay? If you have a question on ownership and permission, how to create a file, please hit me up on WhatsApp, or I will talk more about this in class. Thank you. My name is Joe. Have a wonderful day. And the next topic will be on Apache installation. Thank you.